For us parents, sometimes we wonder, our child is walking strangely. Our child, maybe a non-verbal child, is pointing in some particular man or woman's direction. Does that mean that the person has been abusing our child? What really are the signs of a child who has been abused? To do this presentation, we have one wonderful pediatrician, Dr. Nelly Adade. She's the pediatrician at Joje Hospital, Joje Government Hospital. Nelly is doing interesting things there. She's getting everybody in Ghana to come and support her child health department. But we'll save that discussion for another day. Today, we are talking about child abuse. Dr. Nelly Adade, kindly, the audience is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duma. I'm grateful for this opportunity to discuss signs of child abuse. So I'm going to start with a case scenario. Please, can everyone see my screen, please?
Yes.
Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to start with a case scenario, and I read. 1 year, Pokia is brought to the daycare with multiple bruises in different stages of healing and a fractured arm, which her mom claims she sustained from different falls. Her mother is known to be in an abusive relationship, and this complaint was brought to the notice of the healthcare by the teacher. Another one is 8-year-old Nee, who has suddenly become withdrawn both at home and in school. His teacher complains of a decline in his school grades, as well as difficulty with physical boundaries with other female pupils. His mother is a banker who leaves home quite early and returns very late. He has been left in the care of a house help and the gate man. I'll come back to this scenario, so kindly take notes. What do you think is happening here? And what are
Dr.
the
Nelly,
signs you... Yes, Dr. Duma.
yes. Is it possible that you could make it, what's the name?
Yes.
Slide. Yeah, you've got what I wanted to say.
Yes,
Thanks.
please. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. So please kindly take note of the case scenarios. We'll get back to them. So this evening, I'll be talking about the signs of the abused child. My name is Nelly Adade, and I'm a pediatrician at the St. Anthony Catholic Hospital in the Volta region. By the end of the presentation, I hope participants will be able to identify children at high risk of abuse, the types of abuse in children, and identify different signs of child abuse. So this is the outline of my presentation, and I'll go right into it. So child abuse is the physical, sexual, emotional, and or psychological maltreatment or neglect of a child, usually by a parent or a caregiver. The abuse can be defined as an act or failure to act on the part of a parent or guardian, and this could result in serious emotional or physical harm or even death of the child. And this is where I got the definition from the Child Rights Resource Center in the UK. According to global data on child abuse, every 4 minutes, and I got this from the UNICEF, every 4 minutes somewhere in the world, a child is killed by an act of violence. And about 90 million children alive today have experienced sexual violence. 650 million girls and women, that is 1 in 5 alive today, were subjected to sexual violence as children, including over 370 million, who experienced rape or sexual assault. In fragile settings, girls face an even greater risk, which we know, with the prevalence of rape and sexual assault in childhood, slightly more than 1 in 4. And this is very alarming. It continues to say that nearly 50 million adolescent girls between 15 and 19 years have been victims of physical or sexual abuse by their husbands or partners in the past year. And this was 2024, so it means the previous year, which was 2023. And I'll just go on to say every 2 in 3 children regularly face violent punishment at home, and more than 2/3 are subjected to both physical punishment and psychological aggression. Now we come home. So I got this from UNICEF Ghana, and it says that the estimated total number of children who have been physically or emotionally abused was noted at 3.4 million in Ghana. And in 2021, UNICEF reported that nearly 1/5 of Ghanaian children are victims of severe physical punishment, and the same proportion are engaged in child labor. Close to 9 out of 10 suffer psychological aggression, and about 3 out of 4 children are considered multidimensionally poor, meaning they are deprived in multiple aspects of child well-being, such as nutrition, health, protection, and the like. I'll just move to say that over 1 in 10 teenage girls report having suffered at least one act of sexual violence. And this data is quite recent from UNICEF. That's December 2025. So which children are at risk of child abuse? We have the high-risk children, and these are children who come from homes where domestic abuse is quite prevalent, children with so low self-esteem, children with disabilities, children with unmonitored access to the internet. And we know that now children have a lot of access to internet. Children as young as 12, 13 have phones, and parents do not guide what they are watching on the internet. And children with poor communication in the family, such that when there's an abuse, the child cannot speak to anyone in the family. From the parental side, parents who are not nurturing their children, we know some parents are just giving birth and are not actually nurturing their children. And parents who themselves have been maltreated as children, parents who have low self-esteem, parents who are using drugs or alcohol, parents suffering from poor impulse control, parents having mental or neurological disorder, parents being involved in criminal activity and experiencing financial difficulties are all at risk of abusing children in their settings. In the community, we have when there's gender and social inequality, when there's the lack of housing or services to support families and institutions, and then high levels of unemployment or poverty, easy availability of drugs and alcohol, inadequate policies that prevent or that protect children, when people have unrestricted access to child pornography, child prostitution, and child labor, they put children at risk of abuse. And then social and cultural norms that promote or glorify violence towards children, like when we had the female genital mutilation, child marriages. And then social, economic, health, and education policies that lead to poor living standards or to socioeconomic inequality or instability. There are different types of child abuse. We have the neglect, the physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, bullying, and cyberbullying. These are the more common ones that we encounter. Neglect is actually an act of omission in the care of the child, which can result in the potential harm of the child. And it includes inadequate healthcare, education, supervision, or even nurturing the child. The child's physical and emotional needs are unmet. And you meet children who have inadequate food, who have inadequate clothing, shelter, are not in school, and are not being nurtured by their caregivers or parents. And these are the signs you will see in a child who has been neglected. The child begs for food, the child steals food, or with little food available, the child will hoard the food. The child is frequently absent from school. There's persistently poor hygiene. There's the lack of medical attention or dental attention or missed immunizations. And the child is consistently inappropriately dressed. Anytime you meet this child, there's always a mismatch somewhere in the way the child looks. And you find out that sometimes other children in the family may show similar traits. And that should give you a clue that there's neglect going on. Now we move to physical abuse, and this includes hitting, beating, shaking, burning, and biting children. And the child will come to you with unexplained injuries, such as bruises, fractures, bends. You may find hand marks on the child. And these injuries usually do not match the explanation that the caregiver is giving you. And the injuries also do not correlate with the child's age. It's important to note here that corporal punishment has been prohibited. And in Ghana, the Ghana Education Service prohibited corporal punishment in 2017. So children are not to be lashed. The Ghana Education Service says that you should give them other forms of punishment, like asking them to read, to fetch water, any other form of discipline, to sweep, to scrub, but then do not lash the child. And it's very interesting. I found other articles that said that in other parts of the world, like in the United States, there's a conflict on whether you should hit a child, whether a caregiver is allowed to hit the child, and the limits or extent to which the caregiver can hit a child. So some states have agreed that you can hit the child and not cause harm or injury to the child, and that is fine. However, other states say that when you any form of hitting, whether it results in an injury or not, it is still a form of physical abuse and should be frowned upon. And I wonder, are we causing physical abuse in our homes as parents? Interesting question. So this photograph shows what to look out for when you find a child who has any bruising or injury on the trunk, the ears, the neck. You are not expected to have injuries in such areas. So when the child comes with injuries on the trunk, you find cane lashes, cane marks on the trunk, on the ears, maybe you find a cigarette burn on the ears, on the neck, you should be worried. You should be concerned that something is going on with the child. When the child is 4 years or younger, the frenulum, when you find any form of bruising over there, your senses should be heightened that there's something going on. The cheek, the eyes, any pattern bruising as well. Like I said, you slap the child and then you find hand mark on the child. So any bruising on a child less than 4 months should let you know that something is clearly going on with this child. And usually, like I said, the stories that the parents give are not consistent with what they are telling you. It should let you know that there's something going on at the home of the child. Now let's go to emotional abuse. This is actually the most common form of child abuse. And in our setting, we can all agree that emotional abuse is very common. It includes verbal abuse, humiliation, and acts that scare or terrorize a child. Growing up, a lot of us, our parents will give us the eye, will shout at us. And when you see the body language, you clearly understand that something is happening. So you position yourself, you sort of behave appropriately. When you're in public and your mom gives you that eye, you know that something is going wrong, or you have to act right. The verbal abuse, shouting, the constant rejection, hostility, teasing among peers, and bullying are all forms of emotional abuse. And with this kind of abuse, it's usually difficult to pick up the signs, but then the signs are lasting. They have lasting effects on the child. When you tell the child is dumb, the child is stupid, the child is bad, the child is lazy, these words affect the child's self-esteem, the confidence of the child, and it goes a long way in how the child turns up. So these words are very harmful. They are as harmful as the physical abuse, and the effects can last a lifetime. And it's actually difficult to tell that a child, it's difficult to tell sometimes that a child is being emotionally abused, but sometimes they behave in certain ways that give you a sign. Like the child showing extremes in behavior is inappropriately an adult, like parenting other children, or inappropriately infantile. So rocking or head banging. Child will complain of pain just to avoid being at home and be taken to the hospital, to be taken out of the hostile home environment. The child lacks attachment to the parent or caregiver. And if it's an adolescent, may have actually attempted suicide once or twice or a couple of times. They have low self-esteem. They are withdrawn socially. They don't have any interest in school. They have delayed or inappropriate emotional development, and they desperately seek affection from other people. And these are cues that will let you know that the child is being emotionally abused. So child sexual abuse, this is the involvement of dependent, developmentally immature children and adolescents in sexual activities, which they fully do not comprehend and which they are unable to give consent. And in Ghana, the age for consent for sex is 16 years. And child marriage, 18. There's a mismatch there, but we'll not talk about it today. And child sexual abuse includes exposure to sexually explicit materials, oral genital contact, genital to genital contact, and genital fondling. So this is the normal anatomy of girls, the genital area. Okay, we have the clitoris, we have the urethra, that is where the urine comes through. We have the vaginal opening, and then we have the hymen. We also have the labia. The labia, we have the majora and then the minora. It's the same picture is showing over here. And you see the hymen in this picture. So on the picture on your right, the red area shows where the hymen is. Now, the picture on your left shows the normal anatomy for girls, like we saw earlier. And then on your right, you see a torn hymen with bruising. And sometimes you realize that there's a bruising, there's some offensive discharge, which will give you an idea that there was a forced entry or penetration. And that is why you have that occurring. For the anus, on your left, you have a picture showing the normal anus, okay, and then the normal vagina again on top, and then beneath the normal anus, the B showing the normal anus, how the anus looks like. We have the anal sphincter, the perianal area, and then the perianal folds. And then on your right, you have a picture showing an anal bruise, okay? And then you have some anal discharge as well, which should not be normal. And so when you see this, you should be concerned that there's a form of abuse going on. The child may show behavioral signs like self-harm, withdrawal, aggression, unexplained poor academic performance, bedwetting or soiling, especially if the child has outgrown these behaviors. The child has already is already controlled, can go to the washroom by himself or herself, and is suddenly bedwetting. You should be alarmed. When there are feeding problems, the child does not want to be left alone with certain individuals. And when you try to get the child to change to bath, the child refuses to change in front of you. And then the child has some form of sexual behavior or speaks in a certain way that is inappropriate for the child's age. Physical signs, you may find non-menstrual blood on undergarments or bed sheets. You may find bruising, trauma, swellings around the genitalia, anus, or the mouth. And the child may complain of pain on passing urine or passing stool. The child may also develop sexually transmitted infections. And then obviously pregnancy will let you know that a child has been sexually abused. For the emotional signs, the child may have nightmares or sleep disturbances. The child may hallucinate or have some form of paranoia. The child may have new anxiety or fearfulness. And in situations where the child has already passed the stage of separation anxiety, you realize that the child suddenly has developed separation anxiety and does not want to withdraw from a caregiver. There's also decreased self-esteem and self-harming behaviors. Bullying. This is an aggressive behavior by another young person or people, and it involves an observed or perceived power imbalance. Usually, the one with the power or authority bullies the victim. Okay, and cyberbullying is actually a type of bullying where they want an event to go viral and they use technology to achieve this poor power imbalance. So a child in junior high school sends nudes or pictures of him or herself to another colleague, and the colleague says, I'll post it online, it will go viral, everyone will see your nudity, everyone will see you engaging in one form of activity or the other. It's cyberbullying. And usually when this happens, the child is upset after being online. You realize that there's a change in the child's sleeping or eating patterns. There's a sudden drop in academic performance. There's an increase or decrease use in the technological device. And then the child begins to avoid social situations, becomes withdrawn or depressed. And the child frequently tears up or cries, usually is angry, has mood swings, and may be anxious. So this picture here just shows the different types of abuse that children may encounter and then the signs to look out for in these children. So commonly you see that children have behavioral changes. They may have low self-esteem, they may have poor academic performance, suddenly withdrawing from people, and it runs through in all the types of abuse, and that should let you know that there's something going on with the child. So let's go back to the case scenario. So 1 year Pokia is brought to the daycare with multiple bruises in different stages of healing and a fractured arm, which her mom claims she sustained from different falls. The mother is known to be in an abusive relationship. And an 8-year-old Nee who has suddenly become withdrawn, both at home and in school. His teacher complains of a decline in his school grades, as well as difficulty with physical boundaries with other female pupils. His mother is a banker who leaves home quite early and returns very late. He has been left in the care of a house help and a gate man. What do we think is going on? Kindly share your thoughts. In these scenarios, what are the signs of, what are the signs of abuse over here? And then the type of abuse you think is happening, and then what puts the child at risk? Sorry.
You can kindly drop your answers in the chat box. Kindly drop your answers in the chat box. Don't unmute. Just drop your answers in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. So Dr. Duma, please, you have to help me because I don't think I have access to I don't think I can see the chat box from here.
Oh, don't worry. I'll read them out for you.
Okay. So I'm coming to the end of my presentation. In conclusion, recognizing abuse is not always easy, but then it is essential. Abuse comes in different forms. Some are physical, others show up in behavior, emotions, or unmet needs. We need to be vigilant as parents, as teachers, as healthcare givers in picking up signs of child abuse. We should have a high index of suspicion, especially for high-risk children. These are my references. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Duma for putting a lot of pressure on me to give this presentation when I was not ready and guiding me through, and then the Social Pediatric Subspecialty Group and the Pediatric Society of Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nelly, for your presentation. So a few answers have come through. First case is physical abuse, sexual abuse by gate man, physical and sexual abuse. Risk factor is mother being in an abusive relationship. Pokia has multiple bruises. Nee has withdrawal, a drop in grades, probable physical or sexual abuse. All right. So thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nelly, and you did great.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So now we know the signs and symptoms of an abused child. And I know that for many of us, we are now realizing and we are going like, so that girl I saw last week, that boy I saw 2 weeks ago, it could have been child sexual abuse. It could have been child abuse. I just treated it like it was normal burns. I just treated it like it was a normal fall, but it could have been abuse. Now we are realizing. Now, if we are able to pick up an abused child, what do we do? What psychological support should this child be offered? We know all the book stuff about getting the police form, getting the medical reports. If they have broken bones, orthopedics will see. If they have genital trauma, maybe OBGYN will see, maybe the urologist will see. We know all about getting their labs done, getting post-exposure prophylaxis for retro, etc. I mean, if she's a teenager, emergency contraceptives, we know all that stuff. But then have we really been focusing on the psychological aspects? Or we just get the medicals done, treat them, and then they are sent home? What should be done for these kids psychologically? To do that for us, to tell us all about the psychological support that should be offered to these children, we have Mr. Michael Arthur. Now, Mr. Arthur is a clinical psychologist. and he is at the Trauma and Specialist Hospital, Winneba. Mr. Arthur, the audience is all yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, our able moderator. Can I share my slide? Hello? Dr. Aduma, can I share my
Yes, please, you
slide?
can.
Yes,
Yes, please, you
yes,
can share.
yes,
Okay.
you're a host, so you can share. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Am I good to go? Hello?
Yes, if you could give it to us in the slide mode, slideshow
Okay.
mode. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, am I good to go?
Yes, please,
Hello?
but you've still not put your slides in the slide.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, thank
Is
you.
it? Okay, good. So I'm sorry for the technical issues. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Nelly, if I got the name right. In fact, she did justice to the presentation about what actually abuse is. And the theme too is also very, very timely. Listen, protect, and act. Every child deserves safety everywhere. And we shouldn't forget that it is the adult that should make this possible and not the children themselves. So I hope a lot of parents are on our platform this evening and also learning certain things. So I'm talking about some clinical science, which Dr. Nelly did justice to. The physical science, she talked about them, the behavioral science, she talked about them, the specific sexual science, she talked about them, the signs of neglect, she did justice to that, the emotional and psychological science, she did justice to that, and all of that. I want to add something about some red flags when it comes to parenting and then caregivers. So that is what I want to talk about briefly. So what are some of the red flags when it comes to parents and caregivers? Somebody comes to the hospital with a child, and then even at the OPD, and I mean, kids are kids, and then the mother can slap the child or she can hit the child. and then you ask yourself, if in public this person is doing this to a child or whosoever, then when they are in their private space, what happens there? So these are also red flags, you know. And then the child is trying to complain about pain here or there, and then the adult, either the parent or the caregiver, is sort of trivializing it, that, oh, there is nothing there, and the child is just trying to seek for attention. Those are also red flags as sign of abuse. And like doctor said, and sometimes they come to the emergency several different times. And then when you realize the history of what the caregiver or the parents are giving concerning the child condition, you see that they don't just add up. They don't, they are conflicting. It means that, yes, there is sign of abuse. And then where the parents appear to be indifferent to the child well-being is also a sign of abuse. And she said it all. She said it all. So these are things that should cause us to raise our index of suspicions and when it comes to child abuse, because most of the children will not come out to speak. So we really have to listen. But while we are listening, we are also vigilant with our eyes, because the signs will just be there. But then a lot of us take them for granted. All right. So I'll move straight to how psychological support, how do we support these abused children? How does it work? And for starters, and with this point, and I get sad, though, like our moderator said, we are used to the paper, the workshops and all that, but then when it comes to implementation, most of the time we are lacking. So our first priority is to have a place of safety and stability for the child. That is the first thing. But here is the case in Ghana, as well, even in Winneba, where I work. I don't think we have a running social welfare home where you can send abused children. It will be difficult. But I would say I'm not advertising for them. But then there is one private home, and Pearl Home. They are offering some sort of support to sort of abused children. At least they can house them temporarily for some few months or something. And this is what we need, because the child is in a certain environment. Yes, we have done all our risk assessments, and we've come to the conclusion that no, this child is being abused. What next? Do we leave the child in that environment where the child is being abused? Certainly not. We have to get a safe haven for the child. We have to get a home, whether foster care, something. We have to get somewhere for the child where the child can feel safe. That is our first priority in supporting children or a child who is being abused. So you realize that I talk about ensuring a stable placement. After assessing the immediate safety, then you talk about ensuring a stable placement. That is getting a place where the child will feel safe, because the child needs to be taken out of that toxic, abusive environment. In other countries, they'll go to the court, and then the court will take custody of the child. And we have to establish a predictable routine for the child in that new environment. And this predictable routine helps the child to regain control. When routines are predictable, the transition for the children become a bit less stressful for them. And so we are saying that in that new environment, let us try and establish predictable routines for the children. It also helps them to reduce the stress, and then they are able to transition and then master their environment. We say a calm, consistent environment is therapeutic in itself. So our first point we are talking about is getting a safe place for the child. So the second aspect is talking about trauma-informed therapy. We have different types of trauma-informed therapy. And then we have for age appropriate. So maybe for the child that is less than 5, we have an age appropriate therapy, and then those who are middle age, and then adolescent, all that we have their age appropriate therapy. But then this cut across trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. So one of the most effective treatment for child abuse when it comes to trauma is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's trauma-focused. It sort of take care of nightmares. Most children who are abused tend to relive this experience. They take it into dreams. They have flashbacks. They have fear response. They are easily startled. And when they come to school and you shout at them, they get startled because they are experiencing something in that abusive environment. So the trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy help them to relieve some of this distress that they have undergone because of the abusive environment they find themselves in. So for that one, it is a technical thing that when you meet the therapist, and the therapist is going to, and based on the assessment they are going to do for the child, and then there should be a caregiver, because if the child is being abused by the parent, it means that during therapy, we don't need the parent there. We need somebody who the child can trust, and because that environment will help the child to also heal. So we need a caregiver or a parent figure for that person to go through with the child. So it includes both the child and the trusted caregiver, if possible, the parent. Again, we have something called play therapy. Play therapy. And in Ghana, yeah, we have some places, some private homes have a lot of toys that they use for therapy. So we are saying that for younger children who can't express themselves verbally, we normally want to use play therapy. We bring their doll and all that. We tell them to draw, if they can color, and then we try to see how they will react to some of the things they'll be playing with. Sometimes we also have a pretense play where we bring some doll, and then like this is the hero, and this is the killer, and this is mommy, this is that, and then we try to act certain things that will try to allow the child to also come up to bring out some of those things that they have been experiencing. And once you are playing with them, sometimes they are just taken away, and then they can express some of these things through their play, through symbols, through storytelling, and all that. All this helps to process the trauma and then the pain, the distress they are going through. Because if we are not able to do this for them to express themselves, it gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, there are also implications. And then the other therapy we also use to support them, we call it EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing for kids. And this is especially helpful because it helps you bring up memories, like traumatic memories, which are stuck. Sometimes the memories are stuck there. We sort of repress them because we don't want to think about it. But then that is not a healthy way of coping with some of these things. So through the EMDR, we try to bring some of this repressed feeling out, and then we allow them to process it in a more positive way so that it will not harm them in the future. Then we also have the supportive therapy, where we give the children that free space. Let them feel like we believe them, Let them know that, look, what they are saying, we believe them. And we know that what happened is not their fault. Because sometimes they blame, and we sort of blame them. No, that is not going to help the child to heal. They don't need that at that point in time. So we have to believe them, let them know from us that, look, we believe what they are telling us, and whatever happened wasn't their fault. When we are able to rebuild this trust in them, they are able to express themselves more and more. And that will also speed up their healing. So I talk about complications. So we have to monitor for secondary issues, which has to do with PTSD, anxiety disorder, depression, attachment issues, which and doctor also mentioned, behavioral outbursts, and then school challenges. All these things are things that come as a result of the abuse the children are going through. So from us as mental health practitioners, we try to see whether there are signs of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, whether the child is experiencing something like that, whether the child is experiencing anxiety, whether there's some sort of sign of depression. And we try to work with them, as early as possible, so that the child can go through the process of healing. Beyond that, we have some of these all things that anybody, all adults who don't wish any child go through abuse, these are some of the things that we can also do. We have to listen without pressing for details. And I like our team, he said, listen, protect, and then act. It's so, so important. And listening is a broad topic on its own. And so we should listen to them. We should listen more to them. We shouldn't be judgmental. We shouldn't be too judgmental. When they want to talk to us, let them give them that space. Let us give them that space for them to express themselves. So we should listen without pressing them for details. And when we do that, we become like investigators. And as mental health practitioners, we always tell people that we are not investigators. We don't investigate. We just do our therapy, try to understand the person, do a lot of reflection, empathize with them so that they can feel safe to express and those hidden or traumatic emotions that they are experiencing. So saying, I believe you, and this wasn't your fault, is also very, very helpful in the healing and support process. We should avoid promises we can't keep. Sometimes, when some of these things happen, we become overly emotional ourselves, and then we promise the child or the victim that, look, this is never going to happen to you again. Are you sure you can keep that promise? So we shouldn't also say things that we know that we cannot keep to the children, because trust me, if we do that and then we break that promise, it becomes very hard helping them out because they will not trust us again. I talk about keeping routine predictable for the children. It helps them with transitions. When the child knows that, oh, okay, after this time, this is what I'm going to do. This is what is expected of me to do. It also helps them calm down and they are able to go about their duties or whatsoever is expected of them in a safe way, because you are not just going to tell the child something out of the blue that he or she is not anticipating. So we are saying, look, in these times, we try to form a predictable routine for them. We start very small and then add up so that it will help them to calm down. Then we say we also provide choices for them. We don't sort of impose everything on them. Sometimes we ask them, what do they think? Would they like this? Or would they like to be here? Would they like to do this? We just for them to trust us. And then in doing that, we are able to help them the more. So we are seeing that this restores the child's sense of control and safety. So when I put everything together, I'm saying that listen, we hear child story through words, play, and behavior. And that is what Dr. just did justice to all those signs. All those signs. They are very, very, very important. So we have to listen. We shouldn't just listen with our ears, but we should listen with our eyes as well. And we say protect. Protect, we stabilize the child world so healing can begin. And that is all of us, our duty. And then the last part, acts. We use therapeutic tools like what I just briefly summarized, reporting the law. I know that the lawyers will come in, and then coordinated intervention to break the cycle of abuse forever. Abuse, if we want to break the cycle of abuse and make sure that the children are safe, we all need to put our hands on deck. It is not only the professional's duty, it is everybody. We all should come together and then make sure that we do what we have to do. We do the needful. So every child deserves safety everywhere, and safety is created through adults who listen, protect, and act. Thank you very much, moderator. That is the end of my presentation.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Arthur, for that great presentation. You have indeed opened our eyes to a whole lot of things that we should be doing for children who have been abused, whom we come into contact with.
Yeah.
It's time to move away just from just the medical labs, etc., and then do more. Refer these children to see the psychiatrists and clinical psychologists to get all the help that they need so that they can overcome the trauma and can achieve their potential. Thank you so much, Mr. Arthur. Now, you did mention that we need to act, we need to protect, and we need to act. You know, sometimes you see headlines: a child has been abused, the hands have been put in hot water, a child's buttocks have been bent, a 2-year-old has been defiled by a 60-year-old man. We see these headlines, but then we don't get the rest of the story. What happens? What happens to them? Does anything even happen to them? Or it's just the hype about the event and then nothing happens again? Do these people go scot-free? What really happens when a child's abuse case is reported to DOVSU? Now, to tell us about what goes on with DOVSU and how DOVSU helps in protecting our children, we have the Chief Superintendent of Police, Victoria Yeboah Dakwa. She's the Ashanti Regional DOVSU Coordinator with the Ghana Police Service. Chief Superintendent Victoria, please, the audience is yours. Chief Superintendent Victoria, if you can kindly unmute yourself and give your presentation. And my MCs, can you make her co-host so she can share her screen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As she mentioned, I'm Chief Super Victoria Yeboah Dakwa from DOVSU, Ashanti Regional DOVSU Coordinator. So we are looking at what we do at DOVSU when a child is abused sexually. So I know by now we all understand what child sexual abuse is, or what we are trying to talk about. But I'll bring it down in terms of crime. Some of the offenses we refer to as, or we would refer to as, child sexual abuse. So an example would be defilement. We have an offense we call defilement. I don't know if I should be explaining the offenses. It might take a bit time. So we have defilement, we have rape, we have indecent assault, we have child marriage, incest. All these things are offenses involving sexual intercourse or offenses around sex. So when a child who is not yet able to give consent has sexual intercourse with somebody, it is deemed as defilement, like having sexual intercourse with a child below 16 years. We have that. I want to mention, or then after that, I will tell what does we do when we receive these cases. And then we have rape. Even though rape, we say it's a person 16 years and above not consenting to sexual intercourse. You realize that the 16 up to 17 per our definition of a child, which is somebody below 18 years. Those age bracket, when they go through that experience of forceful sexual intercourse, we can deem it as child abuse. Because yes, even though they can give sexual consent, they are still children. And what they go through or they might have gone through. Hello.
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 Moderators, can you mute Alberta and Louisa, please?
Hello.
Hello. Please support.
Can I go
Please
on?
continue. Yes,
Somebody
please. We are
is
trying to mute.
interfering. Okay, thank you. And then we have child marriage, where we all know what happens within marriage. So when a child is given out for marriage, eventually some sort of sexual abuse will also go on there. We have indecent assault too, where the forceful bodily touch, especially of the private parts of the other. So when it involves a child, it's a form of child sexual abuse. So having mentioned some of these child sexual abuse, I'll go ahead and tell what we do at DOFSU. So first of all, we try to prevent the commission of these crimes by doing sensitization programs and explaining some of the offenses to people. Sometimes they act out of ignorance, not knowing that by having sexual intercourse with, let's say, a 15-year-old is an offense and is child abuse. So we do sensitization programs. Also, we do that. And then if we are not able to prevent the commission of those crimes, even after sensitization, we receive complaints. We receive complaints involving child sexual abuse and then cases involving children who have been sexually abused. After receipt of the complaints, we listen to them, the parties. We listen, we interview the victims to know what they've gone through or what is happening to them. And then we interrogate the perpetrators or the suspects. So depending on the information we get, we proceed to do other investigations, such as we involve the services of a doctor or the gynecologist, and then they do the physical examinations. We don't do the physical examinations. We can't ask somebody, let's see your anal area, whether indeed somebody has touched the place. So we refer such people or such parties to the hospital for the doctors to do their examination for us. We try to, by all these things, we are building a docket, or we are investigating what has happened, and we build the docket with every to have a good case. We have to go to court. We have a good case to present to the court. So we also, in doing that, we go to the scene where the person claimed the incident has happened. We go there to conduct investigations to see what actually went on, where the abuse took place, which position, which area, what happened. We go to the scene, we construct what happened, and it helps us to know. Sometimes, mostly, the perpetrators will deny, but by following and going to scene and looking at what transpires there, it helps us to get the actual picture, what has gone on. And then we also investigate the age of the parties involved, because most of our cases, we use ages to do. So sometimes somebody will come claiming to be a child, but after investigations, you realize the person is not a child, and that we wouldn't really find an offense for the complaint they brought. Because let's say a mother brings a 17-year-old who had consensual sexual intercourse with her supposed boyfriend. Usually they will refer to them as boyfriends. But once a mother finds out that her 17-year-old daughter has started having sexual intercourse, they will just bring them to police that their child has been defiled. It is after investigations when we realize, we get evidence of age, and we realize that no, the age is not within the defilement age. Then we explain to the parents that this is the situation. So we investigate the age, we investigate the act, and then per what we get, we are able to determine whether it is this case or that case, or what we should do. So after all that, we forward the docket to our prosecutors, and sometimes we send it to the Attorney General's office for them to give us advice depending on the circumstance. And if there's a need to relocate a child who has been sexually abused, we involve the services of the social welfare, and with assistance of some NGOs. Sometimes they come in to help us, and then we are able to relocate the children. If, let's say, the child is with one parent and is being abused sexually, we are able to relocate them to maybe the other parent, or we give them shelter at the children's home or any home that the social welfare will direct us to. So basically, this is what DOFSU we do. We investigate cases, we do sensitization, and then we prosecute at the courts too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Supo. Let me break protocol and just ask you one question.
Okay.
Could you kindly define the terms, like the incest, the child marriage, etc.?
Okay. All right. So then I will define, or I'll try to explain some of the sexual offenses I was talking about. So let's say child marriage. When we say child marriage, is giving out a child, that is a person who is not 18 years out for marriage. And I see it to be sexual abuse, because when they go, they eventually would have sexual intercourse with their so-called husbands. And it happens. We've had cases where it happened and the child at a point the intercourse that was going on in the marriage. So that is marriage. And then when we talk of the defilement, it's when you are not 16 years per our laws, you can't have sexual intercourse. You are not supposed to, you are not permitted to have sexual intercourse. That's what the law says. So whether you agree or you didn't agree, whether you consented or you didn't consent, we see it to be an offense against the person who had sexual intercourse with a child who was not 16 years. So that one too is sexual abuse. The moment you have a sexual intercourse with somebody less than 16 years, it's seen as sexual abuse. And in this case, it involves both boys and girls. Whether it's a boy or it's a girl, we see it to be an offense and it's defilement. Then we have indecent assault where they touch sensitive places or private parts of children. So it could be the breast, it could be the vagina, it could be the penis. You are not supposed to touch those places. So the moment somebody does that, especially when it's not like in a medical examination or assessment, but for fun, it's seen as an indecent assault and it's an offense against the child. And it happens a lot. It happens. We get cases where the person knows that the child is young and they cannot have anything to do with, like they cannot penetrate them. Then they will use their hands to be rubbing their vagina or penis or any of their private areas. And so when we get such cases, we investigate to see indeed if something of the sort had happened. And so touching of the breast, the vagina, the anus, and all those things. Then we have the incest, where you are not supposed to have sexual intercourse with your direct blood relation, such as your father, your grandfather, your brother, your uncle, your siblings, and then your mother. So grandmother, grandparents, sisters, brothers, all those direct blood relations per our laws, you are not supposed to have sexual intercourse with them. So the moment somebody does that, it's seen as a child sexual abuse. And then I've mentioned the rape too. The rape too, it involves everybody, but since we are looking at child sexual abuse, we are looking at the ages of, let's say, from 15 to 17 years. If they have sexual intercourse without their consent, they are forced to have sexual intercourse, it is seen as a child sexual abuse and it is rape. So I think by child sexual abuse, these are the few examples I can tell you about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Chief Supo, for letting us know the explanations, actually the terminology that we use. Because I realize that many times some of us interchange some of the terminology. We use
Yes,
rape when we are referring to
to
little
define.
children, 5-year-olds, etc. So thank you so much for clarifying it all for us and for letting us know the role that DOVSU does play. Before I move on to the next speaker, I just want to ask you one last question.
Okay.
Can you give us one or two examples of cases in which DOVSU has really been able to go through to the end? You know what we see in the media, we see only one side. But if you could give us one or two real cases in which things have gone through right to the end to prosecution, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple of cases at the courts as we speak. And one of them that I can talk of is this, I think 22-year-old man who indecently assaulted a 5-year-old girl. He used his fingers to rub or play around her vagina. And the girl informed the parents that this is what the guy has done. And the guy denied it. Actually, he gave her chicken. He lured her with chicken. So the little girl showed the parents, this is the chicken he gave me. So they came and made a case with the chicken. And then and I mentioned that during our investigations, we go to scene. So it was at the time that we went to the scene that we were able to confirm at the scene where he got the chicken. The person confirmed that, oh yes, it's me. I gave this chicken and rice to the suspect. And then it was there that he had to admit and tell us the truth. So as we speak, he's he's on remand and he's in other prisons, and the case is ongoing. So this is one current situation that we did. Then I once did another one involving a father who sexually abused his daughter, and this daughter was gotten out of rape. The father raped the mother when the mother was 16 years. And then the mother took care of the child, and the child grew to also be, I think she was 16 years. Then after JSS, the mother asked the child to go and visit this father who raped before they had it. And then when the girl went to the father raped her too. And this was a child, a 16-year-old girl. So we did, and the case was incest. We went to court with incest. And eventually the man, the father, who had raped the mother and the daughter, he was given 18 years. He was imprisoned, was sentenced 18 years imprisonment. So it's happened. We have a lot. We had this one involving two young children, the boy 14 years and the girl 12 years. They watched television together, and one day they ended up having sexual intercourse. And then it continued until the girl became pregnant. So a 14-year-old boy. This is sexual abuse involving two children. So eventually we sent the docket to AG's, Attorney General, for advice, since the law wasn't so clear about it. So that is some of the few cases I can talk to you about.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's quite, let me say, heartwarming to hear that cases actually do go through to the end and
Yes.
due justice is meted out to perpetrators. I think it's quite reassuring because sometimes from where we sit, we are worried that nothing seems to happen. So thank you. Thank you so much. And now let us move on to one other issue. And what does the law say? And to take us through that presentation will be lawyer Nana Konadu Banahene. What does the law really say about child abuse? What laws do we have? Do we really have strong laws about child abuse? Is it clear, or is there a lot of gray areas that people can just maneuver their way through? So lawyer Nana Kunedu Owusu Banahene of the Attorney General's Office, Kumasi. Please, the audience is yours. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, and I must say that Supo has said a lot of things since we work with them. She has explained some of the laws, but I'll also be taking you through the punishments and then direct you to some of the things that actually we do not know they are actually offenses. So we are talking about child abuse. When we say a child, who is a child in the first place? When you come
Bella, please,
under,
are you going to share your screen?
Unfortunately, I'm on the road. I do not have
Yes,
slides
yes,
to give
yes. You
you. Yes,
mentioned. You mentioned.
yes,
That's fine.
yes,
That's fine.
yes.
We are
So
recording. So
I'll share the slide to you at the end of the whole program, so you can share it with everyone. Yes, please. Yes. So when you come to the Children's Act, it defines who a child is, and then in our laws, a child is a person below the age of 18 years. So anybody that is below the age of 18 years qualifies as a child and is deemed as one under the laws. When it comes to child abuse or issues concerning child, we have laws governing them. The first one that we work under the Children's Act. And then the next one is the Criminal Offences Act. It is also an act within which where a person is found liable for an activity, we charge the person under it. Now, thankfully, we also have the Cyber Security Act, which I would also be taking you through the
Dora,
very important ones that
Dora,
the very important sections that we also charge people that harm children. Having said this, this is something that I think that has been going on for a very long time, and then people also do not know that it is an offense. And then in our line of duty, we always say that we should also encourage citizens to report cases. I think that SUPO went through investigations, and then the fact that when crime happens, the first thing to do is to report it. When the report is done, we've also noticed that most of the parents do not know that when you lodge a complaint to the police, now the case is no more yours, but it becomes the property of the society now. We've had instances where reports are lodged, and then at the end of the day, we cannot go through prosecution because parents are taking money, or one way or the other, they are no more interested in the case. So when you look at the laws, which is section 218 of the Criminal Offences Act, Act 30, it says that causing person to refrain from giving evidence. There are instances where a child has been defiled or a child has been abused. A report has been made. Now, this accused person has been put before court and trial is about to start. You will call the victim, you would not hear from them. You will call the mother too, you would also not hear from them, simply because they have taken either 2,000 Ghana cedis or 1,000 Ghana cedis, and they have simply refused to come and give evidence or bring the child to come and testify in court. The whole purpose of this giving testimony or prosecution is to let people know that the laws are working, so that at the end of the day, we can stop or put a halt to child abuse. Now, we've had instances where we are charging parents because they do not want to come and testify, or they are preventing their children or wards from giving testimony simply because of money. When you come under the laws, it is a misdemeanor. You can be prosecuted, and you are looking at a maximum sentence of a day to 3 years imprisonment if you fail to give us evidence or in any way obstruct or prevent somebody from giving evidence. I must say that there was one time that we needed a witness in respect of a case to come and testify for us. And this person had taken 500 cedis because they needed it to buy food for the family. And he didn't want to come and testify. So what we did was we reported it to the police. We went to look for this person. We brought the person into custody. And then we charged the person under section 218, or also we can also be charged under 219. So I'm always saying that the fact that you have reported the matter to the police, now it does not become your property anymore. It is now the state against this accused person or this perpetrator that has actually defiled or caused harm to the victim in question. I always say that a lot of public education must also be done, as we are doing today, because people do not know that it is an offense not to give testimony for the state in respect of issues like this. Jupo did mention, Supo, did mention a lot of offenses. And then I'll take you through it. I think that she did a good job by explaining the differences between defilement. She explained incest. And I also did appreciate the fact that she also explained, I think, incest, defilement, rape, exploitation, and all the other offenses that we can think of as far as a child is involved. So the Children's Act, all that the Children's Act does is to provide protection against abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And then the Act 30, which we usually used to prosecute cases, it also provides laws for offenders that do these kind of offenses. I always say this, that every time we are charging an accused person, we look at the ingredients of the offense or the circumstances of the case, and we would always prefer to go for the offense or the act that gives a higher punishment, or one that would set a record for people to know that indeed the laws are working. Indecent assault, that is under section 103 of Act 29. And then Jupo or Supo did say or talk about grabbing of breasts, the genitals, and then doing the fondling and all the unnecessary things that you can think of that involves being it indecent. And this carries a sentence of not less than 6 months and not more than 3 years. What we've also noticed is that these offenses usually starts at school. You would have the teachers do that a lot, kind of grabbing the kids and then in a playful manner. But some of them do know what they are doing. Others do also not know that it is an offense. So I always say that it is one of the things that at the end of the day, we have to educate our kids so that they can tell the difference between right and wrong, to be able to tell us what is happening at school. Now, defilement of a child, that is defiling a child under 16 years. And then Supo did mention it, that it can be either a boy or a girl. And when it comes to defilement, it is either the natural way that we all know or the unnatural way, which now for some reason, because of what is going on, we have issues or cases also arising. In the past, you used to have a lot of natural canal knowledge issues, but now it has become more of unnatural canal knowledge than the natural canal knowledge. When it comes to canal knowledge, all that we are looking for is the slightest degree of penetration. Slightest degree of penetration. So at this point, I would plead with our doctors that usually when these cases are reported, it comes with a police medical form. I know the forms are a lot. Some of the boxes that you have to tick. You see some of them saying if there was penetration, when you saw the victim, all these things go to help us with prosecution. Because before the docket gets to our end, the medical officers would have examined the victims, and they are the first people to come in contact with them. So in filling the form, I would say assist the case, and it also helps as to whether or not to get conviction or not. Since you are the first people to see the accused persons, it helps us to know the state in which the accused persons were in, or not the accused person, the victims were in when you examined them. Now, defilement carries a punishment of not less than 7 years and not more than 25 years when you are found guilty. There's also another offense in Act 29, which we call the sexual exploitation. That is using a child for sexual activity that is likely to cause serious physical and emotional injury, or in some cases too, it also involves prostitution or pornography. And that sentence is, you're also looking at a sentence of not less than 7 years and not more than 25 years. Now, because of how fast things are growing, technology, now social media, TikTok, and all those things, child pornography is on the rise. And that is found under Section 136 of the Electronic Transaction Act. I always say this, people do not know that when they publish things involving children, it is an offense. When you publish, when you distribute, when you circulate, when you lend for gain, sell or offer for sale, or even have it in your possession, custody, or control, even if you print it, and all these things are described under child pornography through a computer, you are found guilty. And you are looking at a fine of not more than 5,000 penalty units, or a term of imprisonment not more than 10 years. Or looking at the circumstances of the case, a judge can even give you both, either a fine or an imprisonment. And mind you, a penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. So if looking at the circumstances of the case, you are giving 5,000 penalty units, we are multiplying 12 by 5. And that is how much fine you are paying, looking at the circumstances of the case. Now, the next offense is also under the Cyber Security Act, which is Section 62, indecent image or photograph of a child. When you look at the Cyber Security Act, it talks about indecent image as any visual recording, video, drawing, or text. So all of these acts is based on case by case study, depending on which particular offense that you are dealing with. If it's more of social media, the ones that they do with kids online, you are looking at the Cyber Security Act. So if you are found under Section 62 for indecent image or photograph of a child, you are looking at a fine on not less than 2,500 penalty units, or not more than 5,000 penalty units. In some instances too, the court will decide to give you the imprisonment, or it's either imprisonment or the fine. Now, incest. Supo mentioned it, and we all know what incest is. Dealing with a relative, be it a sister, a brother, a half sister, half brother, anything or anybody that you have a blood relation with, granddaughter, daughter, sister, mother, or anything that you have sexual relation with. So if you are having with a male of not less than 16 years, then you are looking at an imprisonment of not less than 3 years and not more than 25 years. Now, what are some of these things or some of the challenges that we have that has resulted in cases of prosecution? Social media, I say, has become an unbearable canker. Most of these prosecutions that we are doing arise as a result of the children not being monitored on social media. Most of these kids are picking this habit from social media. And the sad thing now is that we are prosecuting children more than adults. In the past, you used to have teachers defiling children. Now it is children. We are having juvenile offenders. Children that are also under the age of 18 years are causing this harm to their own friends or also to children simply because of social media. Another issue is the issue of neglect or lack of attention. Peer pressure has also become another issue. So I always say this every time I talk about child abuse. I say that all of these things, we have to solve it from the house. Have that talk with your child. Now, all the laws are on the internet. It has become easily accessible. Some of these children do not even know that the things that they are doing are crime. If we are not careful, we would have a society where at the end of the day, we are prosecuting all our future leaders. But we also cannot do anything. But we also have to send a message out there for people to know that the system is indeed working. I always use this case as an example. I think I've talked about it in the past, and I always talk about it. The Bantima case. The victim was a child. The offenders were all children. They were charged under defilement. And then, even at some point, we had to charge them under child pornography. Because what they did, they had to be prosecuted for it. They were convicted. And then because most of them were juveniles, they had to spend 3 years in custody simply because some of them were naive. When you look at that video, they did not even know what they were doing. But because there was a slightest degree of penetration, which within the parameters of the law, if you do that, you are found liable and can be prosecuted. We had to prosecute these children. Some of them do not even know that touching of your colleague or fellow child inappropriately is an offense. Using your fingers, videoing a child, sending it to your friends, they laugh about it. But all these things are offenses that we are prosecuting children for. So I think that all that we have to do is education, 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 so that the children will know that at the end of the day, the law is working. And we have laws there that governing these offenses. I think I'll not take much of our time because I had the privilege of listening to all the other resource persons, and they have mentioned most of the things that I put in my slides. And then another thing too is with the media too. Sometimes some of the things that they report or they put out there too, I think that they also need to be guided. There are instances where they are actually giving out a report about a child, and then you will find them actually posting a picture of the child or scenes that are actually not supposed to be out there. They can also be found under this publishing that we see under the Electronic Transaction Act or also under the Cyber Security Act. I think that at this point, I'll bring my presentation to an end. And I will send the slides to Dr. Aduma so that we can also go through and then share with our children. I think that since you are talking about them, they are the main focus, since now things involve them a lot. And also for GES representatives to talk to the children in schools about it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, lawyer. It's good to know that there are laws, even for things as recent as the digital violence, etc. Thank you so much for that. I think this has been this has been a very insightful presentation. Let's take the last presentation, then we'll open the floor for discussions. And this last presentation is about digital violence, a bit more information about the digital violence. Remember that just last month, the 16 days of activism from UNICEF, WHO, etc., were under the theme of digital, we're on the theme of digital violence, etc. So we need to know a bit more about digital violence. And we would also like to know about how the laws work in the United Kingdom versus Ghana. And to do that, we have Irene Enchibuesiako, a social worker in Croydon, UK, to give us the last presentation. Then we'll open the floor for discussions. Irene, the audience is all yours.
Thank you, Doctor. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'll try and share my slides. It's not that many, but would you try and share for me, or have I got the controls to do that?
I
Hello. Hi,
have
Dr.
your
Adoma.
slide, so I think I can project it for you.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Irene Enchibuesiako, and as Dr. Adoma said, I'm a social worker. I work with children and young people, so from 0 to 25, and mainly children with disabilities. And today, my focus is on child exploitation and also cyber violence and digital violence. So it's quite a broad topic. I'm waiting for Nelly to share that, but I think I will just. Okay, I'll just start. So, firstly, we look at child exploitation, and within, what to start with, I would say that there are no borders when it comes to abuse, and more so when it comes to in the digital space. And regards to child exploitation, we see as the use of a child for someone else's benefit or gratification, which has various forms of abuse and neglect and also manipulation. Thank you very much. And digital violence, in regards to the meaning of it, just to give some context, it refers to various forms of harassment. If you go to the first slide, thank you. Various forms of harassment, abuse, and discrimination. I talk about children with disability and also other additional needs that occur through the digital. If you go to the first slide, the digital space, and that impacts individuals emotionally and psychologically. And the aim of that is to, hi, Dr. Nelly, if you go to the first slide, but I'll just continue anyway. The aim of digital violence with the perpetrator is basically to threaten, control, and intimidate the individual. And that can include cyberbullying and also blackmail. And that is something that is not just unique to abuse, not just unique to UK, but also in Ghana and across other countries. I speak to some colleagues who do work in Zambia and other kind of southern part of Africa, and they do talk about cyberbullying, which leads to high rate of suicides amongst the young people, especially in Zambia. So there are no borders, unfortunately, when it comes to in the digital space. And technology is been very useful, and it's got its positive side, but also more increasingly it's got its negative side, which is impacting our vulnerable those vulnerable in society, and we're looking at children. And so online abuse, it takes can happen on the internet. It happens across any device that is connected to the internet, to the web, like computers, tablets, and mobile phones. And also it can happen anywhere. And a lawyer mentioned, other presenters have mentioned about social media, which is one of the significant places that it happens, and across also text messaging and some messaging apps that are common to our children, young people, and also online chats. And one other way is also through online gaming as well. So is something that I will talk about, some of our safeguard approaches that we can use to ensure our children's well-being when I get there. But online gaming is one area that if it's not monitored, children can be accessed by perpetrators, and also live streaming sites. Some of the types of online abuse are cyberbullying and online bullying that takes place offline, like within schools, and more prevalent in the I grew up in Ghana, and of course it was a different generation, but I believe it's more prevalent in the Western world, and in context in the UK, where really offline bullying within schools has really wide-ranging effect, where it leads to some children not want to go into school. It can happen, of course, in Ghana as well, but really prevalent within kind of our cases, where some children end up not accessing education for a number of years because of that, and some to taking their lives or self-harming. So it's got that, and that can happen in the context of Ghana as well. And also emotional abuse is a significant impact that affects our children, young people who have been victims of online abuse. And that can be a continual mistreatment of a child, and can happen on as well as offline. And grooming, I will speak about grooming in the sense of online grooming, where someone builds a relationship and trust. It could and portray themselves as, sometimes they can portray themselves as similar age, but because of course technology, it's likely that it's not who they say they are, and usually it's an adult and portraying itself as a child in order to gain the trust of the child. So that is grooming, and that can happen within a number of weeks, or it can happen over a number of months, and gain their trust. And ultimately, even though it starts online, it can lead to ultimately the perpetrator's aim is to then move it to a face-to-face meeting, where that child does not see that person as a stranger anymore, and then it moves to the in-person meeting, and they can be groomed to end up engaging in sexual behavior. And talking about grooming, I want to touch on we have we call it adultification. I don't know how, but then I will explain. It's something that, of course, it can also be I can imagine when I explain it, how it links up even with cases in Ghana where children are seen as adults by the perpetrators, and sometimes through it's not, the onus is not on them. Is the perpetrator who is to be blamed squarely, but then sometimes they, especially in the UK, especially when it comes to children of other ethnic groups, where they are seen as, let's say, a 13-year-old, in the eyes of people, seen as a 16-year-old, and that is trying to give them that identification identifiers. and also that could be also used in the across the social media platform where children are promoted to are engaged in some promotions where, let's say, dancing provocatively and engaging in things that really is not age appropriate, but they encourage and they're getting all these followers. They're having people promoting them, and that is a form of identification of that child. And so in the eyes of perpetrator, they are not seen as they should be seen as a child, but they are because of how they are being presented, they see them through the lens of an adult, and something that we call here adultification of a child. And I would say some of the signs of online abuse is where some of the things that we look for in kind of when we get cases, or some of the identifiers where children spend a lot of time or a lot less time than usual online, testing, gaming, or using social media. These are some of the signs that they are being abused online. They may seem distant or angry, upset after using the internet or texting. So it's good that we kind of have good observations as caregivers. And also, I hope there's some educators here also in kind of recognizing that within our schools as well, or any platform that we are educating children. And also, children can be secretive about who they're talking to and what they're doing online or on their mobile phone. And here, it's important that we gain their trust and not react in a way that kind of makes them afraid to speak to us. And also, when they have a lot of new phone numbers, text, or other stuff on their tablet or laptop. This is more for young people as well. So I'll talk about artificial intelligence, and similarly with the other things others have said, and I said from earlier on, there are positive aspects of our digital world and the digital space now, but similar to artificial intelligence, there are negative aspects of it. And when it comes to abuse, now there are increase in AI-generated child sexual abuse material online, and that, of course, that can cut across borders. So it's something that we have to be mindful of. It might not have the, I think the lawyer Konedu Banahini mentioned about now is child-to-child abuse. Unfortunately, there's increase in that, and that is definitely from the digital space, the increase in digital space, and increase in AI-generated sexual abuse material is becoming more prevalent. Unfortunately, it's been uploaded on the dark web. And so within the UK, we have we work closely with the police, similar to Ghana, and they have like the data champions within the police force who work to help to bring this to bring those who are responsible to. And we have also the AI means that there are more severe images that are being generated online, and what we call category A abuse, where the perpetrators are more able to use complex and hardcore scenarios. And within the UK, we have recently, it's actually from this summer, July 2025, where we have the Online Safety Act, and where you can easily report content that are inappropriate or that there are concerns about, and it can be picked up. If you go to the next slide, yes. So I'll say some of the safeguarding approaches that we could employ, and that is across that we use here, but also, of course, I know a psychologist who spoke earlier and mentioned about about listening to the child, and also trauma-informed approach, where you acknowledge what the child has been through, and kind of support them through it, and have get them to also access therapy as well, which I think is being widely spoken of. And also not putting the blame, and others present have said, not putting the blame on the child, but also knowing that the blame is squarely and the onus is on the perpetrator. And when I mention contextualized safeguarding, is where it's more to do with, as I say, UK versus Ghana. There's some aspects of our approaches that will not be appropriate to in a Ghanaian setting. So everything has to be contextualized, where we kind of be aware of the local support. We got DOVSU, and here we work quite differently in some of the how our setup is. And also empowering the family, and also the child and young person as well, but being aware of age and being age appropriate. Because as Lawyer Benahene said, there are instances where family are afraid or do not want to come forward, or are not willing to give information, even though a crime has been committed. So it's about working, of course, education is kind of the crux of everything. But also knowing that they have also got their own fears, and working with them to empower them to be kind of participate and engage in any criminal process and getting evidence, so that perpetrators can be brought to justice. If we go to the next slides. Dr. Duma, please check the time for me.
Yes, we have about 5 minutes more.
Okay, I'm just going to run through quickly. Some of the courses, I'll share the slides, so I'm not going to repeat everything here. But some of the risk and vulnerabilities I've already mentioned. I mean, we are in we're in the digital age now, where a lot of this are taking place online. And also when it comes to some of the risk, if a child is from a home where they feel that they cannot speak to the caregiver, it could be a mother, a father, it could be a trusted adult, that pushes them more to kind of engaging in the online space to get a sense of belonging. And we don't have it so much in Ghana, but here we have kind of a gang culture with our young people that we work with within the social care, and also as a social care in the criminal justice, where young people engage in we call it county lines. They go outside London and they engage in prostitution, and not through their own violation, but through adult perpetrators using them for economic means. So that is a real problem here. But as I said, about contextualized safeguarding, maybe not so much in Ghana, but it's something that we have to be aware of, that it could seep through to across borders. And why I'm emphasizing on this is recently with this summer, in July, when we had the Online Safety Act, where one of the key things was for age checks. So because of that, there was a lot of there was a decrease in those who were applying to, or who were registering for some of the social media platforms, and they all moved to the dark web. That was the kind of the analysis. They moved to the dark web, and where in the dark web there are no borders. And so now, if they're getting those kind of scrutiny within the UK, as an example, in the Western world, then they're looking for more softer, not to do scaremongering, but that is the reality. If they're getting this kind of scrutiny and checks, then they'll look to where there are loopholes, like other countries where they can infiltrate online without that kind of other scrutiny. So it's something that we have to not be reactive, wait till it happens, but I'll say with our policymakers and also, of course, our other stakeholders, health and education, make sure that we kind of be a step ahead as far as possible, because things go at a staggering speed, but we can try and be a step ahead when it comes to safeguarding our children. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, I've already mentioned it, but I'll touch on this briefly in regards to how we support children who disclose. And it's this, I mean, it's evolving when it comes to digital abuse and digital violence. And one of the things that we can do within our sphere, our homes, is, of course, parental controls. It used to be parental controls for TV. Now it's a whole different ball game where we have to make sure that we know the age limits of this platform. Not only, most of them are 13. I mean, like TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, they are 13. That's the age limit. And it's important that we not only say, oh, okay, when my child is 13, they can safely be on it. We have to be mindful that even beyond that, we set parental controls and physically and check them. And also the soft power of software as a parent or as a caregiver is having that trusted relation with your ward, with your child, so that they can be open and ask questions, and then you can pick up through just generic conversations. And also reporting for content to be removed. For cases we talk about nudity, where pictures are shared innocently or naively, and then they can be used even as a way of blackmail from perpetrators. So when that is come to attention, there are a number of, with all the social media platforms, there are like emails that you can contact or and kind of report to have it removed, even though sometimes it might take longer. And also we have the Internet Watch Foundation, the Dovsu, and also our lawyers in Ghana would probably hear about would know about the Internet Watch Foundation. They also it's a foundation based in the UK, but they work across other countries, and Ghana is one of them. And you can report an online abuse. So if there's a video or a picture of a child that you've become aware of, or is being disclosed to you, you can actually submit it through that portal, and it can be picked up. Okay, if we go to, I already mentioned about working with schools. If you go to the next slide, I think we're nearly done. Yeah. Okay. So we've already spoken about, of course, Dovsu in the local context, and also regards to, I wouldn't just read over, but in regards to the role of parents, it can be overemphasized. It's very important because it's about having that trust and working together with the child, and also the other networks that that is, we call the team around the child. So that could be the school and the nursery, and I'm mentioning nursery because we've had cases and some prosecutions where there's been data abuse of children, which has been sold on the dark web. And it was one of the UK nurseries. So we have to also be mindful of that. When we have younger children, babies in nurseries that we lead them, we have to also ask about the policy of the nursery, and if they go CCTV, or if they go anywhere of monitoring, what did they use? Who is on the phone? How does it get downloaded? Is it on the phone, and who has access to that phone? And those are some of the questions. So it's not only when a child is in school age, but also even younger ones as well. Yeah. I think this is the end of my presentation. Let's go to the last slide, I think. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Irene Ntribwesiako. this is quite, I think it's quite worrying, looking at the fact that some of the perpetrators on the dark web, if they realize that the things are tighter in other countries, they may begin to move to other countries where things are a bit lax, things are not so controlled. I think that's quite a worrying thought, but it's good that you mention it so that we are always one step ahead in protecting our children. Thank you so much. Let's open the floor for questions. Hello, Mr. Arthur. Can you respond again? I think your answer has vanished. Okay. In the meanwhile, I think two people have their hands up. Dr. Bright, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. And we'll take Fatimata's question before we allow the speakers to answer.
All right, so good evening, and thank you for the engaging session, and thank you to all the presenters. I don't know who would answer the question I'm going to pose, but so it's the healthcare worker who sees a child who's being abused. He's the first person seen, he or she is the first person seen, but then at that level, the parents comes and tell them they want to settle this in their house. If this later comes to the attention of the law, is the healthcare worker liable? What should the healthcare worker do? Should he report to the police that ex-parents don't want to proceed further when he sees that this child is very much being abused? That is my first question. My second question is the children who are emotionally abused. I mean, how do we quantify the extent of emotional abuse? I know there's a lot of laws on the sexual abuse and all. Is this the same for the emotional or the psychological abuse? Once again, thank you for this engaging session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bright. Fatimata, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much for this insightful education. I've really learned a lot. Thank you very much. Please, my first question is that if a case is brought to maybe DOSU and then a medical report is needed, and the victim goes to the doctor to get a medical report. Does the victim is the victim supposed to pay an amount of money? That's my first question. And then my second question is that if a 16-year-old girl is abused, even together with the mother, but this is the case that the 16-year-old girl is told not to take the issue to the doctor because even the mother, is not taking it anyway. Meanwhile, the child is being abused physically, emotionally, and it's affecting the child. So what should the child do? And then my last question is that I witnessed the case at the theater. A 14-year-old girl who was sexually abused and now pregnant and was planning for cesarean section. So few interrogations, I realized that the girl was sexually abused, but she doesn't know who actually abused her. whether it's the stepfather or the half brother, that is the stepfather's son who was staying with them. I was told samples were taken to the police and investigations were done. But I don't know. It seemed the mother was trying to cover up the case because she suspected one of them, whether the new husband or the son. So I don't know. Can this child take this case home and what she should do? Thank you very much.
So these are very loaded questions. So I think Lawyer Banahene, I think that you probably can address some of them, and Chief Supo, yes, can also take some.
Hello, can I come in?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I want to address the question where he said if you see a child, you see a case at the hospital, and the parents say they don't want to report to police. I think we have a duty to protect children. So once the parents are not doing the needful or protecting their child, and their child has been abused, we also have a say in it. And at the hospitals, we have social workers and we have social welfare there. So some of these cases, you just involve them, and sometimes they lead and come to the police station to report. That's one. Or you can also just tell them, some of them, just say, looking at the nature of your case, go to the police and get us a form. We need to fill a form for your child. You don't need to explain it like they are going to make complaints. Some hospitals have referred cases to us using that modus. They just tell them, go to police and collect a form for us. We need to fill the form for your child. And the moment they say that, they come. And when they come and we make inquiries, it is there we realize that it's a child abuse case. And then we get involved. So indirectly, the doctors send them to us. And when they come, we take the case up. So you just don't have to say that the parent don't want the police to hear. So I will also not do anything about it. Let's do something to protect the children. Let's do something to help them. And somebody's question too, I think was like the child didn't know who impregnated her or something like that. So even with that, still involve the police. Any case we think a crime has been committed, let's involve the police. Inform us. We'll take the complaint and put it down. And then as investigations go on, sometimes we meet similar modus operandi, like how the offense was committed. We will receive a case with similar modus, and then we will link the two up. And most times you realize that it's the same person who committed the previous one. Sometimes they will rape somebody in the bush or somewhere, and the person can't identify who did it. But when the case is reported and we do investigations and we put down everything that happened, with time, we realize the person may go and create the same or commit the same offense with the same modus. And then when we link the two, we are able to tell that he did it. So they not being able to identify the perpetrators shouldn't be a reason why we wouldn't report. Let's always report. And that's the first step of dealing with the issue. Let's report it, whether we know the perpetrator or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Supo. Michael, please, would you take Dr. Bright's question about how do we quantify the neglect, and are there any laws or something like that about neglect?
Okay. So when we are talking about abuse here, some are physical, but every abuse has an emotional component of it. And when we talk about emotional pain and then physical pain, there was a presentation and there was a question like emotional pain and then physical pain, which hurts the most, you know. So with the physical pain, at least you'll be given some form of medication and all that, analgesic and all those stuff, just to manage your pain. But with emotional pain, which comes with trauma, how do you handle that? So it is very, very, very traumatic. So the person is going through the pain, and if the person is not speaking up, the person is, it is very painful. It can really, 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 so much of psychosomatic. So psychologically, yes, you are going through the emotional pain, but then it can affect you physically. It can affect you physically to a greater degree. So if you don't take care of it, it can break you down physically. So they are all important. I don't want to say that this is more than this, but they are all very serious thing. And I think any form of abuse is emergency. And I like what the our superintendent of police said, that we have to act. We have to report it. We have to report it. Once we have an iota of it, we have to report it, because people are suffering. Sometimes they bottle it up. But when we see and then we approach them, and then they can't. So physical, whether physical, emotional, they are all things that can affect us physically. Just like when you are sick, and physically, emotionally, you are affected, and then emotionally, when you're affected, it can affect you physically. So I'm not as to the degree. Yeah, we have some instruments that we use for them to rate their pain and subjectively. Subjectively, pain. We say pain is subjective. So we ask people, and we call something the subjective unit of distress. So we ask them on the scale of 0 to 10. We want you to rate the pain you are going through. Where will you put yourself? Where 1 is very mild, and then 10 is that it is very debilitating. And then people are able to rate that. So it is subjective when it comes to how painful the thing is. And that one, it is the client that will rate themselves. I don't know whether I'm making some sense here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. One question in the chat before I come back to the question about the payments of medical forms, medical reports. One question that I'd like to go to Irene. You realize that I think Dr. Daniel also asked something, whether you, the medical officer who didn't do anything when you saw the case of the abuse, are you implicated? Irene, in other jurisdictions, what happens? Are you implicated or not?
Yes, you are, because and not only you are implicated because you got duty. There's a duty to a report. So it's, and which is enshrined in law. So yes, there's a duty to report. That's where it will come from. And of course, without, so you having the information, and especially with a child which is 81 to 18, of course, if it's a child who is compos mentis, got capacity to kind of engage, so it's age appropriate as well. That is, if they are 16 and above, they're deemed to have capacity to kind of engage and agree with you, let's say, report to the police. But even if they refuse, you can still report in the public interest. So it is everyone's business, and there is a legal fundamental duty to report. Yes.
Okay. There's this other question in the chat before I come to the medical bills. And somebody is asking whether we, Ghana, can create, let me read this out so I don't change it. Can we, Ghana, create or have a website whereby perpetrators being charged by court can be posted, including their biographies, to discourage others from doing same or prevent them from having some privileges, such as traveling abroad, working with children, etc. Irene, would you like to speak to this before Supo comes in?
Yes, briefly, what I'll say that it comes down to having a sex offenders list. So within the UK, not only of course within the criminal space, you have the sex offenders list, but it's also linked with we call it DBS, which is a disclosure and barring service. So anyone who works with children, I mean any vulnerable person, which children are classed as vulnerable, and also any vulnerable adult. So in the context of my young people with disabilities and any vulnerable adult really, in all manners of setting, it's a basic requirement that you have the DBS, and the DBS, which is a disclosure and barring service, would kind of capture that. So talking about coming abroad, they wouldn't see the light of day when it comes to that, because we link up with the police. I know that if people want to come over here as teachers or social workers or health workers, they have to have in Ghana they call it the police check. I don't know how thorough it is, but in UK it's a nationwide, it's a computerized system where no matter where you go, that DBS can alert to any provider or any employer that there is this on your record, and you wouldn't be able to be employed elsewhere. So it would be good to have such a system in Ghana, because Ghana is of course much smaller. So any region you go to, that will flag up whether you're a teacher or a nurse or any other any other profession that is regulated.
Chief Supo, what are your thoughts about that?
Yes, I would say that we have something of the sort, and after an accused is sentenced to especially imprisonment, we take what we call the long sentence report, and within it we take their fingerprints, and we have that data there. So when somebody wants to travel abroad, they are asked to go for the police crime clearance report, and then because we have that record there, they will check if you are somebody who has been sentenced because of a child abuse case or defilement or rape or whatever. They will know, and it will be part of your clearance report. And I don't think any embassy will give you visa to their country when they realize that you have a history of defilement, rape, or child abuse. So we do. Just that we don't have let's say a site where we put their pictures as the speaker asked. We don't have, and it's not open to the public. We don't have something like that yet. But what we have is we know them, and then in their report, police clearance report, it's indicated, or we indicate that yes, this person has done so and so and so and so. And usually such people wouldn't be given visas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supo. To all of us, there's a link to an evaluation form in the chat. So kindly fill it as we are even rounding up. Now, the question about payments for the medical reports. So 2 questions. Somebody's asking that when they are coming to the DOVSU unit to get the report form, does the victim have to pay? And then another person is asking that, do they have to pay to the medical officer to get the form filled? And if they don't have money to pay, what happens to them then? Any of our speakers can handle it.
So I think I will handle the DOVSU one. When you are going for the police medical report form at the police station or at the DOVSU office, you are not supposed to pay anything. That particular form is free. it's supposed to be free or it's free. But when you send it to the hospital, that is where the cost comes in. So with that, if there's a doctor on board, maybe the doctor should explain why they take the money. Because at the hospital, some doctors do take money, but some who understand and are willing to assist freely, they don't take money. And we have some NGOs too who support us and comes in to pay the bills for some of our clients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Any other question, contribution, comments? And if any of the clinicians would like to respond to the fees taken for the medical reports. I guess none of the people on this page take the fees because everybody is silent. Okay. Okay, there's another question here whilst we wait for a response. I think this will be our last question. I want to know if the nation is doing something to fight or create awareness in terms of machinery, including finances. And if an organization or an individual wants to create awareness, where should they go for support? Any tips on that, whether there's any foundation, any funding anywhere that is available to somebody who wants to create awareness about child sexual abuse, child protection issues?
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Well, those we do a lot of, we go out and we go to schools, we talk to people, we do go to the markets and all that. And we do all that without any funds. So it's a desire and a passion to help or a passion to do something about the situation. So for now, we can't or I can't suggest any institution or organization that can give you funds. But in your small corner where you are, just around you, you see, that's how we just walk to a taxi rank and then we tell them that we want to talk to you, we are from those. They agree and we start explaining the laws to them. So you start with the little you have, or if even you don't have, just walk. And the people you meet, start telling them something about what has happened. And we will make a headway whilst we wait for those who can fund us. But even as we don't have, we do what we can. So that's to the person who wants to go out. Just go and start something. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answers, Chief Supo. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Nelly. And thank you very much, Lawyer Banahene. Oh, let me just take this last question, and then I'll hand over to Jocelyn to wrap us up. Usually, these victims are left to go back to those unsafe environments. Is there any structure to help shelter these victims whilst they await justice? Any of you could take this, please.
Please come again.
So the person is asking whether there's any structure or shelter to support victims, because normally they go back home to these same environments where the perpetrators may be or the abusers may be.
I'll say yes, because we've had cases where we needed to change the location of the victims. We involved social welfare, and they gave the children shelter at the children's homes. So yes, initially we can find shelter for you at the children's home, and then we'll do further investigations, other social inquiries to see whether we can find a relative who can support. So even though the children's homes are temporary, Eventually, we get family members who are able to take care of them. But immediately the incident happened, we relocate them, especially when the suspect is going back home on bail or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is quite good because many of us did not know that. So it's been quite good. Jocelyn, team lead for the social pediatrics group. Could you kindly give us your closing comments?
Hello, everyone, and good evening. It's been an awesome time of eye-opening presentations, a time to interact, learn new things, and see how we would go forward in protecting our children. I want to take this opportunity to thank the President, Dr. Hilda Boy, and the leadership of the Pediatric Society of Ghana for giving us the Social Pediatrics and Public Health subspecialty this opportunity to have this awareness creation and this webinar. And this year our theme has been apt: listen, protect, act. Every child deserves safety everywhere. Our speakers have done a very good job educating us, preparing us to continue our advocacy throughout. I wouldn't start listing them by name, but I want to thank every one of you for taking the time to prepare, come and speak to us, for answering our questions. And we also want to say that Pediatric Society stands to speak in the best interest of our children. Every child we see in our jurisdiction needs to be listened to and protected, and action will be taken. So if you're at a loss as to what to do, and when you see or encounter a case of child abuse, you can reach out to any of us. And as we work with our partners, DOVSU, UNICEF, and everyone else involved, we want to ensure that our children are safe. Thank you, everyone, for making time to be a part of this meeting. And we hope that when we call on you again to increase our education and awareness creation in the coming years, you will be ready to work with us.
Full of false things. Which one is that?
Sorry about that, Jocelyn.
All
Please,
right,
did you
thank you.
finish?
So I'll just conclude that we hope to further go on awareness creation, celebration of child protection every December. And we would want to involve every single one of us in educating the public, in creating awareness, making our children know their rights, and going a step ahead to take action when their rights are being violated. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to all the participants for listening. And we hand over for the closing prayer, Joyce Mawena. Mawena, can you kindly give us the closing prayer? Okay, thank you. I was trying to unmute myself, but I was having challenge. Shall we please pray? We thank you, Heavenly Father, for what you've done for us. We are grateful for everybody that has joined this webinar, the presenters. Father, we say thank you. We bless everyone. We pray that everything that has been discussed here, something good will come out of it. And the children in Ghana and the world at large will see a positive change in their life and their care. We are grateful for everyone that helped one way or the other for those successful webinars. Thank you all, and God, we say thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So thank you all so much. And next year, expect more. Next year, it will be bigger and it will be badder. If badder is an English word, bigger and badder. Next year, so thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.